$867.50, 867-749.50. Does this partial bid mean something?
The parcel bid box is checked on that. Typically, that means that they were unable to bid all of the items in the bid, but they may have mischecked that for this particular bid. Fuel providers usually provide unleaded and diesel fuel. Yes.
Luke, could you state your name and information for the record, please?
Sure, that was Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor. Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor.
All right, next bid for fuel. Gladio Trading and Marketing Company,
Close.
close enough. $866,219, 866-219.00. Last fuel bid from Mansfield Oil Company. Mansfield Oils Company of Gainesville, $868,238.50, 868-238.50. And we have two for hot mix asphalt. The first from Milestone out of Columbus. Oh, shoot. And these are the ones that have two different plants. So different price for the plant. Okay. So from plant 11, a Milestone's bid amount is $2,726,000, 2726000.00. From plant 32, Milestone's bid is $2,752,000, 2752.0000.00.
That was plant what?
32. All right, last one for hot mix asphalt from Reith Riley out of Indianapolis. Reith Riley bids $2,999,000, 2,999,000.00.
So
That's all.
I would make a motion to turn these over to Luke and come back to our next meeting with some, let him review them all and come back with some recommendations.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Sheena.
You're welcome.
Recommendation and approval of 911 server upgrade bid. Morning, sir.
Keith Brandt, 911
Do we have any questions on this or concerns?
No, I bid, I bid.
I don't thi- You can bid on it if you
You can
like,
bid
but
if you
I
got
think he's
the-
already got a guy.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further?
I was just gonna, is there anybody else that bid this or is it a specialized? So specialized, there's only,
No, so we
bid it out.
had two bids.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was
we
close, wasn't it?
that's
Oh,
right.
yeah, we had two quotes. We solicited three
And you got two.
and we got two back.
Okay. That's all I have.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. You're 60, right? We'll get there. Thank you, sir.
These 400-page.
Still you.
Elected officials and department heads. Public safety communication request approval of approach council to appropriate funds from the 1222 fund. I guess you're back up here for that, aren't you?
Never left.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keith. Sheriff, ordinance 2021-0-17 regarding noise control. Second reading.
Wayne Burgess, Johnson County Sheriff. Same noise ordinance for the second reading to, so if we can get it approved for to go through.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further?
Just in a year, just let us know how this goes.
We will,
Just
Yeah.
keep us updated on this noise ordinance. So
absolutely.
that would be good. I'm thankful we got it. Makes it a little bit easier for your officers.
I believe it will.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On your way out, you might grab that Santa hat from Commissioner or from Councilman Deere.
A little gray
Yeah.
Planning, zoning, and ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of Johnson County 2021-Z-4.
Good morning, Michelle Hanser, Director of Planning and Zoning. Before you are three text amendments to our zoning ordinance. Two are to help out with enforcement, and the second one is to alleviate a variance that we have regularly. I can go into details if you guys wish.
The only one I've got some issues with, Michelle, is the RV one.
So
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
right now, all of the ordinance says a recreational vehicle shall not be occupied at any location other than approved recreational vehicle park. We get about a handful of complaints throughout the year about people living in an RV. With that one sentence verbiage in our zoning ordinance, it's kind of hard for us to do any enforcement on it because it's kind of, what does occupied mean? What's the definition? What's the terms? And so I thought in consulting with our planning commission attorney that we could probably beef it up a little bit. So if we ever needed to actually go to the next step and send a violation letter and stuff like that, and something that would probably uphold in court a little bit more, we had to define habitation. We also do give those people who have family members that visit the ability to, stay there in an RV, but this is the long-term people who just park and live there because they sold their house and they don't have a place to live now. So they're living on mom and dad's property for extended period of time.
And if their mother and father want to live on their property in an RV, what's that to us if it doesn't involve health and safety of other people?
Because that is one of the things is what do they do with their black water, as in RV terms, the black and gray water. And that's, I always work with the health department on these violations is, like if they're dumping raw sewage or dumping the water on the property, we definitely want to get a hold of that too.
Well, then that would be an inspection to see if they're
Yeah.
legally dumping, not that they're staying in an RV.
Yeah,
I have a dump station on my property for an RV.
yeah.
And you're telling me I can't live in an RV on my own property if I don't want to?
Well, I mean, currently.
I got a
by
problem with that.
definition- I mean, by definition, it says you can't, in a way you can't, you're not supposed to.
And I have a problem with that.
Okay.
If we're going to revise that ordinance, let's revise it to give people the freedom to use their property as they wish, as long as they're not affecting the health and safety of other people. My view. Sorry.
Yeah, we had quite a bit of discussion on this at
bet you
the
did.
planning and zoning. And this is one of those type ordinances that's all encompassing, unfortunately, to really address some singular events. So how do you apply it singularly? Well, you can't. It's like the noise ordinance we just did. It's just all encompassing. And so the example is you've got a subdivision, you got homes real close to each other. These people park an RV in their driveway and they got somebody living in the thing. And it doesn't meet the code requirements and that we've got put forth. Now, to your example, you're living out in the country, you got an RV parked out there on your land. Nobody really cares or complains, but in a subdivision, it's not that way. You got everybody complaining about it. You got to do something about it. These people,
That's why you have HOAs.
well, they don't have HOAs. So most, and that's what I'm saying. Now, a lot of times they'll have, the subdivision will have restrictive covenants, which points it out, but in the absence of that, that's how this came about. So I think what you're going to see going forward is, in your case, if you've got an RV out there where you live, nobody's going to complain. It's never going to be an issue. It's kind of like the sheriff, the noise ordinance. This gives the planning and zoning department the the teeth to handle these situations when they occur.
That teeth is already there through health and safety if they're not properly disposing of the waste.
Well, they could be living in it and going in the house and using the restroom. So it's not predicated
And
simply
what would
on.
be wrong with that if the HOA doesn't have a regulation that says they can't?
Well, it's because the planning and zoning says that you can't have, it'd be much the same as, I guess, pitching a tent in your front yard and somebody trying to live in that. So it's one of those all encompassing things where you're not going to be, I don't think you're going to find individuals affected by it where they live in areas and nobody's complaining. Obviously, the planning is only going to follow up on complaints anyway. They're not going out and trying to police it, self-police it. So, but that's the reasoning behind it.
I'm still disagreeing with it. And I'm gonna continue. If you want to put a pig farm on your property, you should be able to put a pig farm on your property as long as it doesn't affect the health and safety of other people.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we, this seems like it needs a little bit more discussion, a little bit more fine tuning. Maybe we can get with Michelle and talk to her about some of these situations, but I would move forward on 2 of the 3.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I would move forward with 2 of the 3, leave the RV out for right now. And
Which
either
Yeah.
Brian and I will
three
get
are
with
you
you.
talking about?
Make sure you call them out here.
Yeah,
You're
it
gonna
would
make a
be
motion.
The 3 are where you can use an RV.
6-101-5, which is accessory
Okay.
structures, and 6-101 -4A. Those revisions I have no problem with. I have a problem with 6-101-3B and 6-101-6F. And I think that's the same, by what you're saying, it's the same one you have a problem with, Commissioner.
Yeah.
So move forward on the 2.
We'll move forward on those 2, and then looks like Brian and I'll get with you individually and go
Yeah, I
through
mean,
some of this a little bit more.
like I said, I mean, in a way, I say the same comments as Brian. I mean, I do get these complaints. The one that I had to deal with recently wasn't a subdivision. The overall property itself was poorly maintained. I think it was just aggravating the neighborhood who didn't have a HOA. But when we do get occasional out in the middle of nowhere, and as I go home to my out in the middle of nowhere home, I'm like, I don't know how I would personally be bothered if my neighbor down the street would have an RV with their son in it. So I mean,
Beats being homeless.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
seriously.
yeah. So I mean, it's kind of a hard to balance our rural or suburban.
But the issue is though, and here's what I see, and I deal with this in my area a lot, is you have these subdivisions that don't want to have an HOA because they don't want to have neighbors fighting with neighbors. So what they do is they put that on the county. And I think that's a bunch of crap. If you want to have those restrictions in a subdivision, then put those in your HOA or put them in your covenants of your subdivision and enforce them through that way. Otherwise, why are we being drug into something that's not a health and safety issue? That's my point.
Well, this is kind of akin to, let's just use a situation where somebody just parks a semi-trailer on their property because they want to store stuff in it. Well, it's not a health and safety issue, but it's a direct detriment to adjacent properties and their values. So it has significant consequences in the involvement of that. And this is kind of akin to that. We've got ordinances, if you let your grass grow up too high, we're going to force you to mow it, or we're going to mow it. It's the same thing. You
That's
got a
gonna
right to
be-
let your
that's-
grass grow as
yeah,
high as you want.
But that's going to be a health and safety issue due to rodents and things that live in those tall grasses. I understand that. That's a health and safety issue. But if I want to park a semi-trailer on my property, what's that to you? My
Well,
point.
Again, if you're in a remote area, nobody's probably going to make an issue.
This doesn't distinguish between that.
Well, again, you can't, these type ordinances, and I talked about that on the noise control. They're all encompassing. You can't pass an ordinance for the whole unincorporated area of the county and then begin to divide it up and singular out various issues or areas.
Except noise control can be a health and safety issue if it causes people not to be able to get rest and things like that. I don't know that somebody living in an RV is gonna cause you, unless you're just a fanatic and you can't take it.
Well, we got, let's
I
say
guess
the
it's
guy
just-
wants to open up a pig farm in his yard next to you.
I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't affect the health and safety of the people.
As long as
they
my
keep it
motion
clean.
still stands, this needs a little bit further debate.
Again, it gets down to, the personal freedom and then how it affects those that you're adjacent to. Typically, it winds up being a property value or property kind of exposure kind of issue.
Yeah, it's a
And then-
financial issue, not a
Yeah,
safety,
really,
health and
or
safety
health-
issue.
health and safety.
But again, HOAs and covenants and restrictions on subdivisions, if that's the problem, that can take care of that problem.
Would it be wise maybe for Commissioner Baird or I to attend one of the planning and zoning and you guys can bring us, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more people, a lot more involvement on this and
We've been
I
hashing
figured
this
you
thing
guys-
around for a good while.
I figured you had.
Yeah.
And it might help us better understand in the 3 or 4 days we get to
Yeah.
read it on a.
Well, I think it goes
Computer
back to, it's in regard to subdivisions and areas like that. But again, it's the unwillingness of those subdivisions and those people to start an HOA and or covenants and restrictions to stop that. So they make it a county issue instead of their own, which it should be their own issue. That's where I'm coming from.
There were some other questions I had as far as, like you said, there was a permit you could get for this. There was some wording in there about a permit that you
Yeah,
could get for
we
having one
have,
of these.
occasionally we have people who are building their homes that want to live on their property. We already in a way allow it. You can either pull a mobile home, which a lot of people do not do, but they'll pull the RV, which we require just a 1-year permit just to kind of sure.
Is there a fee associated with that?
Think I haven't done it often. I think it's either 75 or 50.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at through some different eyes, I guess.
Well, and I know people that travel around the country all during the year and then during the summer months here in Indiana, they come back to their property and they park their RV on a piece of property that they own and live in their RV while they're here in this state and not traveling around. And I don't see an issue with that, except under this, they can only park there for 48 hours. And that's not going to work. I think people should have the freedom to come and go as they please.
My motion still stands.
I'll second it. I don't do that too often, but I'll second that.
And we'll just dig a little bit deeper on this and talk to you guys. Okay, that's fair.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
There could be a lot on this,
Yeah.
but we're gonna save this for
Yeah,
another
further
day.
discussion.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's not directed in any way at you, Michelle.
I'm just trying to
I'm a-
resolve it because when people do call me, I said, I really don't have much.
And I don't disagree with that, but I've told a lot of people down in my area, have your addition, get an HOA or restrictions and covenants to handle that. But
Oh, really?
they don't listen to me either, so it doesn't matter. Highway. You always seem to come up after battles. You notice that, right?
I plan it that way. I hope that you get worn out so that you don't take it out on me. Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor. One item is ratification of financial commitment letter for a federal aid project application. This was for a proposed replacement of our Bridge 56 that's located on County Road 750 West out in Union Township. These applications were actually due last Friday. So the letter was already submitted. This is just ratifying your approval and signatures on the letter.
Move to approve.
Second,
A motion second. Any further?
is this the bridge down the road from my house?
This is,
That one's only been on for about 3 years.
it's under design,
Okay.
but it's fiscal year 25,
We just don't use it.
I think.
Go the other way.
Well, they've got it halfway barricaded off.
That's to slow down the people that drive too fast.
It's a 1-lane bridge now.
And also,
That big truck coming through that big dark blue one.
we have cameras out there. We know. who speeds and who doesn't.
I painted them.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed. Motion carries.
Hey, hey, Luke, before you leave, I was looking at claims and there was a $7,250 payment to Willow Lakes HOA. Is that for common area for that roundabout or?
Yes, we had to purchase a little bit of right of way from the front part of the Willow Lakes neighborhood, which all along Stones Crossing Road, there's a strip of common area before you actually get into the platted properties. So we had to buy a small portion of that to tie in their entrance, their western entrance into our improvements, since it's so close to that intersection.
Okay, I thought maybe that's what it was for.
Yeah.
Seemed like a lot of money for no more than you had to get.
Size wise on the property, that's correct. We will unfortunately be impacting some of their sprinkler heads and some of their lighting that's right there
No,
in the common area. But since it's privately owned, they are awarded a cost to cure to fix those issues.
just curious.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Under Commissioners, approval of JWS Specialty Company Administrative Services Agreement. I don't think I missed anything. did I?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Approval of subdivision drain repair agreement amendment number 1 with Willow Lakes East Homeowners Association.
Sure. Oh, do you want me to
No,
explain
go
it? Okay. You recall that we entered into an agreement with Willow Lakes East for the drain repair pursuant to a statute that has actually now expired. This amendment will modify the agreement to show the actual cost of the project and the breakdown for the individual homeowners.
We got Michelle, did we receive the money from Willow Lakes East yet? Because I met with the president of their HOA Friday and he said they mailed it the day before Thanksgiving.
Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail.
Well, we'll make sure we
Okay.
receive that before this is executed.
Yeah. I move to approve whatever we've got.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Acceptance of lowest quote and award of contract pursuant to IC 36-1-12-5 for Commissioner's Office project.
We have 3 quotes. The first is from Duke Commercial for $7,585. The second is from An Extra Hand for $7,200. And the lowest quote was from CW Sneed Company for $6,919.
And for information, for those that don't know, that's for starting to redo the office area as far as Sheena's, Annette's, and Zach's area
Okay.
from there forward to kind of blend in with what we've done. So, which it needs it. It looks terrible in that area.
Move to approve SW Sneed, CW Sneed.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for the lowest bid. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Award and approval of construction contract with Sexton Mechanical for jail existing block renovation.
I move to approve. I mean, we've reviewed that and came back with it. And
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approval of professional services agreement with Gateway Access.
Move to approve.
that's a handful, that contract. I'm gonna second that.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's a handful and.
I know,
Sheena
she
just
did.
got another
It
nice
was
page.
worsened this morning. I received a 9-page exhibit from Indigo here at the last minute. I think it just outlines boilerplate language regarding the federal requirements. So I don't think it's going to be a material change, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Well, then approval of this needs to be pending
You can.
That look,
fine.
yeah, why don't we
It
do
was
that?
literally after I printed the,
Motion, good with that.
the agendas.
Second, good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Just going record. I don't trust this whole thing.
Well, we've
Sorry.
said that from the get-go.
I'm sorry, I just don't.
I don't think any of us do, but the options are kind of limited.
Yeah.
At this
I looked
point.
at the exhibits on their ARPA funding for it, and subject to this, subject to that, subject to that, this, that.
I was just gonna point out, under Article 1, initial information, it's, the date is 31st day of December, 2002-32.
No, it's because it's a red line. It's crossed off.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
marked it out too.
It's hard to see sometimes. Yeah.
It's hard to understand most of the times because the legal jargon that they use, but all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Amendment to CY 2022 grant agreement with Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation.
So this is the amendment demonstrating that they will be using ARPA funds to fund our local match for the first calendar year, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
I'm not real thrilled, as you can tell. But we need to continue this service.
You
so-
can, you can tell we just got back from conference, commissioner conference, can't you? We're ready to fight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Approval of resolution number 2021-R-12.
That's the
Johnson County
final.
I-65 corridor economic development area. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I didn't know you were going to keep going. That's just the final step in establishing that E EDA.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of ordinance number 2021-0-18, authorizing distribution and expenditure of proceeds of Johnson County grant from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. And new business, approval of quotation for cyber risk insurance.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Claims, all December claims will be presented for approval on December 20th due to the timing of the December meeting.
So nothing to approve today.
We have, how about minutes? We have no minutes either, I guess.
The final ones will be presented on the 20th.
Okay, got it. Any public comment? Hearing none, all hearts are free and clear. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would so move, sir.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you very much.